Hi everyone, and welcome to the first how-to video. I'm going to walk you through the first part of Project 2, which is modernization theory applied to your country. This is going to be a short little video because there's not a lot in terms to show you. The second one's going to be a little more involved and probably take a little longer. So this first part is intended to be very straightforward. It's not intended to be as complicated as it may seem. So first of all, let me pull over the project guidelines, which will be up on WYO courses very soon. And you notice that for this project, you're asked to add a section on development, democracy in your country. I still have Egypt up here, but whatever country you choose. And there are two subsections we're going to focus on for this video. The first one is economic development, a first look. If you remember from Lipset and modernization theory, there's a lot of attention paid to GNP per capita or GDP per capita. GDP and GNP is simply a measure of a country's total wealth, and per capita just means the total wealth divided by the number of people in the country. And that's the macro measure that we always use to get a quick, rough estimate about modernization in the country. So the first one, if you read through the guidelines, tells you to use Google for this. And I'm going to use Indonesia, and let's just do Indonesia GDP per capita. And if you see, you notice that it's about 3,300 US dollars. That's adjusted to inflation for 2015. And you can see Indonesia per capita over time. And they also compare it to India, which is nice. So you can just, with a quick Google search of your country, GDP or GNP per capita, I'll also change this to GNP and we can look at that too. Yep, see, so GNP per capita is a little higher because it's a different measure, but you can compare it to the Philippines and India as well. Indonesia is slightly higher. Probably for our purposes, GDP per capita is probably the better one because it's more analogous to the Jaworski and Lamanji. So that's that. The second subsection is modernization society, the macro measures. And notice I've got two links here for you. These are Wikipedia entries for urbanization and literacy rates. Remember that Lipset said that education and urbanization were two of the main factors, correlates of democracy related to modernization. And so we're going to focus on those two. The other factors that we talked about are really hard to find, and we have a very limited amount of time this summer, so I'm going to focus just on these two. They're good enough for what we're wanting to do. I've already got the one on urbanization pulled up, and this lists it by, we can sort it by alphabetical, and we're going to go down and look at Indonesia. 50.7% literacy rate. Notice this first column, I'm sorry, urbanization, I messed up. The percent of the population that lives in an urban society. We'll do literacy in a second. Notice that's about 50% of Indonesia lives in urban areas. Now if we sort this and we do a little search, well, that didn't work out the way I wanted. There should be a measure somewhere down here if scrolling doesn't make your eyeballs bleed. There we go. The world. On average, the population for the world is about 52.1%. So Indonesia is slightly less urbanized than other countries. You might want to compare your country to a couple of other countries in the region. Let's say, if we're talking Southeast Asia, that would be Malaysia. 54.1%. We've got the Philippines over there as well with their absolutely crazy president, Duterte. They've got an urbanization rate of 76%, so that's a lot higher than the others. So that'll give you some context about what the rate of urbanization is for your country, and you might just want to look at a couple of other countries, neighboring countries, or those in the same region that are similar to your country for a quick comparison, and then you can talk about that in that subsection. That's urbanization. Let's go over to the wiki for literacy rates, and once again, go down to Indonesia. Oh, look at that, 93.9% literacy rate. That's pretty high. And if you look at the world population, that is actually higher than the world population, which is 86.3%. And then, of course, we're going to go and look at Malaysia and the Philippines just to see where Indonesia stands in relation to them. Where are you, Malaysia? There you go. 94.6% literacy rate in Malaysia. In the Philippines, it's 96.3%. So Indonesia is pretty high, and it's higher than the world average, and literacy rates in that region are pretty high. So now we've got three metrics: GDP per capita, urbanization, and literacy that we can use to sort of get a sense of where the country stands in terms of modernization. And then if you follow this template, you don't have to, but if you follow this template, you can talk about GDP per capita, very short little subsection here, sorry. And then you can talk about literacy and urbanization here. And then the important thing is, based on those metrics, what level of democracy would your country be predicted to have? Indonesia, for instance, has a modestly okay, sort of a moderate GDP or urbanization. It's got a very high literacy rate, but the GDP per capita is very low. And so it's a mixed message. We would probably not expect a very high rate of democratization based on those metrics alone. So we can match it up to the Freedom House scores that we talked about in the first project and say, is that consistent? Does modernization, based on these metrics, tell us, or would they correctly predict the level of democracy in this particular country? And that's the gist of this first part. It should not take you very long to do this. The write-up will take the longest, and then thinking about are the metrics for modernization consistent with the actual level of democracy in your country? Which is another way of saying, does modernization, at least these metrics, do they explain the level of democracy in your country? So that's it. The next video is going to delve into attitudes and how to look that information up, and that'll be uploaded shortly. See you then.